Hello there, lovely people, it's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to have a look at all 21 of those lovely games that come with the Super NES Classic Edition, or the Mini NES, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Basically, it changes depending on what country you're in. But anyway, that's not important. What is important is the games that come with it. Now, it is a bit disappointing that it is only 20 games plus one, the extra one, of course, being Star Fox 2, that they clearly wanted to make a big deal about, and understandably so. But even with the NES Classic Edition, we got 30, but nevertheless these are 21 fantastic games, and we're going to show you all of them here today. But enough waffling, let's dive right into things. Contra is a series I've not had a lot of experience with. What I do know is that it is brutally difficult, but at the same time kind of forgiving. It's kind of weird in that sense. Basically, everything is a one-hit kill, but the lives respawn you right back where you died, so that's quite nice in that regard. But you do only have limited continues, and you do have limited lives, of course, so it still is absolutely tough as nails. Oh, Donkey Kong Country. I mean, if you've never played this game, then you seriously need to play it. It's one of the all-time classic platformers. You run around as the titular Donkey Kong in the titular Donkey Kong Country, trying to get your horde of bananas back from the evil King K. Rool. I mean, it doesn't get more classic than that, does it? Little bit disappointing that the other Donkey Kong Country games are not on here, but nevertheless, this one is a stone-cold classic. Earthbound is a really weird game, but by no means do I mean that in a bad way. The easiest way to describe it is that it's kind of a turn-based RPG, but at the same time, that really doesn't do it justice. Honestly, the best way to find out about Earthbound is to just play it, or indeed, if you want to call it Mother 2, you do that. Final Fantasy III, or Final Fantasy VI as it's known in Japan. Now, it's difficult for me to say much about this because I have never played this game before, but nevertheless it is a Final Fantasy game, and I've heard from many people that this is one of the great ones, so I'm honestly really excited to give this one a go at last. Do you like fast cars? Do you like cars without wheels? Then F-Zero may well be the game for you. The original game certainly isn't as full-featured as the later games in the series, but nevertheless, it is good to strip things right back to basics and just enjoy the original game as it was originally intended. Kirby Superstar. Now, this is where things start to get great, because this is 8 games in one, which is maybe being a little bit lenient because some of those games really are just mini-games. Nevertheless, in my mind, this is the holo-type Kirby game. I mean, Kirby's Adventure kind of did this same sort of thing beforehand, but nevertheless, this is Kirby as we know him at his best, and it's overall just an incredible experience. Kirby's Dream Course. Now, this is a weird one because it's kind of, in fact, I say kind of, it pretty much is a golf game of all things. Now, it's really weird to put Kirby in this situation, but it works really well. The controls feel a little bit janky and the isometric view is a little bit dated to say the least, but nevertheless, this is still a great game and well worth having a look. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Now, I don't need to say anything about this, surely. This is just without a doubt the quintessential Zelda game in my mind. I mean, yes, I think I prefer some of the later games, but there are so many tropes that are so classic to the Zelda series that started in this game. Every single top-down Zelda game has tried to be a Link to the Past, and in many people's minds, they haven't quite reached the grandeur of this classic SNES title. Mega Man X. Now, this was a bit of a sort of a renaissance, a sort of revolution for the Mega Man series. It introduced loads of new mechanics all at once, but it introduced them in a subtle, gentle way so that you didn't feel overwhelmed and that longtime fans didn't feel totally alienated by this new style of gameplay, and it just works super, super brilliantly. Secret of Mana. Now, this is another game that I have never played before, and I'll be honest, considering it was made by Square, I thought it was going to be another turn-based JRPG, but it's not! It's a sort of an action game. It's very similar in some regards to Zelda. If you know anyone who's played this game, then no doubt they've been singing its praises from the high heavens, so yeah, I mean, I think you'd be mad to miss this one out. Star Fox. Now we're getting into my kind of territory. Now, this was one of the first proper, fully realized 3D console games. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't the absolute first because, let's be honest, nothing ever is. That doesn't make any sense. Let's move on. But Star Fox is fantastic, and although the controls are a little bit wobbly by today's standards, but nevertheless, it is still an enormous amount of fun, and there's something wonderfully retro about it. I mean, it really does look the part as a kind of retro 3D game. It's difficult to find anything more retro that isn't a wireframe. Now, this is an interesting one because yes, we are playing Star Fox 2 because, well, a long time ago a ROM was leaked of Star Fox 2, but apparently this isn't the final version, so it's possible that on the SNES Mini we will be getting a full version of this game with things that we don't see here right now. There are a lot of elements in this game that were reused in later Star Fox games, particularly things like Star Fox Command, but nevertheless this game stands up superbly well. It's incredible to think that this thing was designed to run on a SNES because it is so advanced for 16-bit software, but nevertheless it looks great and I'm really looking forward to playing the full version on the SNES Mini. I think I've already referred to the console by about 4 different names. Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting. Yes, in the long lineage of long-titled Street Fighter II games, this is the Turbo version, which introduced loads of new mechanics, including, of course, Turbo Mode, unsurprisingly. I've never played this game before, but I have played an awful lot of Street Fighter II, and it is still definitely Street Fighter II. Not sure why they've chosen this version of the game, but nevertheless, it is a very, very good version, and yes, it's good. I'm just basically saying all these games are good. Super Castlevania IV. Now, if you like the adventures of Simon Belmont, but you don't like experiencing horrible nights to have a curse, then this is one of the ones for you. Despite adding Super in front, this was actually the first Castlevania game on the SNES, and as such, it is a big upgrade, but at the same time, it does feel a little bit sort of stuck in the past, sort of stuck in the NES past. But considering it's stuck in a past that's Castlevania, it is still fantastic. Oh my god, Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Now, what to say about this thing? This game is notorious for being an absolute pain in the ass, for being just so incredibly difficult. It's relentless, unforgiving, and just generally overall a very, very difficult game, but it is very well refined, and I think a lot of people do have a special place in their heart for it. Is it as hard as the original Ghosts and Goblins? It's difficult to tell, considering I've never played that game to completion, nor have I played this one to completion, so I'm really not the best judge for that. Super Mario Kart. Now, I love me some Mario Kart, but for some reason, I cannot get my head around this one. I never owned it when I was younger, and for some reason, something about the controls being super sensitive, and also not having the analog control with the analog stick, means that I just can't get the hang of this one. Nevertheless, I have it on extremely good authority that this is a very, very good game, and I'm sure I will give it much more of a chance when this thing comes out. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Now, there are so many things about Mario when it comes to the sort of, if you like, deeper lore as Mario can get, that are taken from this game here. And the mad thing is, it wasn't even developed by Nintendo, imagine. This title is absolutely massive, and to be honest is probably worth about £10, maybe even 20 of the total price of the SNES Mini as it is. What can I even say about this that hasn't been said already? Super Mario World is just an outstanding game. It is just one of the best, if not the best Mario game in my personal opinion. The controls are absolutely perfect, the mechanics are refined down to an absolute T. It's just overall just an outstanding game. You've all played it before, I'm sure of it, and if you haven't, play it.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
Super Metroid. Now, for many people, this is when Metroid really started to come into its own. The big sprites from Metroid 2 actually make sense on a bigger screen rather than the old Game Boy one, and it's in full color, and so many of the classic Metroid items made their debut in this game. That seems to happen a lot with the SNES. You know what? I might even go so far as to say that this is the best game of the lineup on the SNES Mini. I'm gonna say, I've said it. I can't take it back now. Yeah, honestly, it is that good. Now, as you can probably tell from the footage, I have never played Super Punch-Out before. It's not exactly hard to see. It feels very much like the original Punch-Out, and that is no bad thing. It's definitely a style of game that has not been done recently, except maybe with the Wii one, but even then that was still very different. But it's still a fun game. I certainly wouldn't say that it was my favourite out of the list, but nevertheless, it is still good. One, two. And lastly, Yoshi's Island. In my mind, this is the best looking game on the SNES. I know, that's a very bold claim to make, but the sort of childish drawing style really comes through and just looks absolutely gorgeous, even in the SNES's low resolution. It's just downright lovely and an incredibly fun game to play, and nowhere near as easy as the later Yoshi games, which is no bad thing. And there you have it. That is every single one of the 21 games coming to the Super NES Classic Edition, or whatever you want to call it. Which of these games in the lineup is your favorite? Let us know down there in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you prattle on and on and on and on and on and on about 21 kinds of that subscribe button, and be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.